Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. This is Julie Bruns, and you are about to be inspired. I am so excited to share my conversations with amazing people from all walks of life who figured out how to be happy, peaceful, and content doing work they love and making the world a better place so that you can see what's possible for your life. I can't wait to hear what you think. Send me an email and let me know one thing you're taking away from this episode. And never forget, anything really is possible. Hey, welcome everyone to this episode. I am happy to be here with Kathryn Ford. She is a celebrity coach, consultant, and women's empowerment expert, changing lives and futures across the nation. And I want you to say, Kathryn, when we get started, what I love your tagline. I love what it is. I want you to say it when we start talking. But I just want to also say how we met, which was, I did a workshop for a company, a real estate company called Compass. And when I was done with the workshop, I think it was September, October, maybe November. One of the gals there said, "You really need to meet Kathryn." And so that's how we met. So I haven't worked with you, but I right away, I went and looked at what you did, and I thought it was really interesting. And I learned a little bit about your story. So it's a really cool story. And I'm excited to talk to you and learn more about what you do and how you got there.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited too. I felt that when we spoke, we had so much in common.
Yes.
Just the possibilities and living our best life. It was definitely meant to be that we were introduced to each other. Yeah.
I'm going to pause. So I am excited to talk to you and learn more about what you do. So what I'd like to start with is the first question is, tell everyone what you do. I want you to say that tagline in your introduction somewhere. And then I want to find out, I know what you do now. I want to find out if you always saw yourself with that career, this career, helping women, or if it's always a squiggly path, but it was like, you knew one day you'd be doing what you're doing. Let's start with that.
Such great questions. Well, I design incredible next chapters for women who are ready to make the rest of their life the best of their life. And it's all based on my own story, my own journey of the past 32 years. And I had no idea that I would be doing this. Absolutely no idea. When I was a young woman, I was highly successful with my career, loving life at the age of 26, 32 years ago. Yet I was in a highly toxic marriage. So personally, I was very impoverished. Professionally, thriving. I honestly was in an HR career. I thought my goals and aspirations were to one day be the senior VP of HR for this large corporation. So I had no idea, but God had a different plan for Kathryn, and I'm so grateful.
I wanted just to say really quick about what you just mentioned when you were thriving in your professional career, but not in your personal career. I know other people that's true for, and it might be the opposite, thriving personally, but not professionally.
Right.
I'm more fascinated with the thriving professionally and not personally, how people can be so successful in one area and be miserable in another. And like, because it's resilience, and there's a lot of probably traits that you can attribute that to, but it's fascinating to me that something can be going so well over here and no one would ever know that it's not going on this other way, and how you got through it and became successful in that way with things not going well personally.
Well, I've always been very driven. I will have to say, looking back on it as a young woman, I probably didn't handle it in the best of ways just because I wasn't equipped with the knowledge and the tools at the time.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family that had certain beliefs around marriage, and divorce was not an option. So I was in this highly toxic marriage, a lot of emotional abuse. And I just felt like, okay, this is like what I did, and I have to stick with it, and I have to just work harder. But the harder I worked at it, it seemed the worse it got. And it was just so troubling. So I was doing the best that I could with the knowledge that I had at the time. Wish I would have known a lot of different things then. But I was pouring myself into my work. And so it was no mistake that I was the one on our team in HR that was in on the weekends. It was safer at work. It was more joyful at work. I was working late at night, which you know, that's unfortunately, that's how it went. And I was getting promoted like
Yeah.
very often and frequently because of that.
So it was your distraction. You were driven and it was your distraction, and and you were good at it. So it was easy for you well, you liked it, you were good at it. And it was a distraction from something you didn't want to look at or couldn't fix or whatever.
Exactly. And it gave me, it was a distraction. It gave me a reason to be able to get out of the house, right? Be gone. And I think that women today, over the last couple of years, a lot of them in toxic relationships, or, maybe it had been time to uncouple a long time before what we've just been through, but they found themselves then stuck with that person and no escape. You couldn't go on a vacation with a girlfriend. You couldn't even go to the mall, right, for a while there. And so it really did exacerbate things, but sometimes that's okay. It has to sometimes get worse for us before we say, ooh, it is time. Right.
Yes.
So finally I was able to it took a long time. I stayed in that marriage far too long, but it was my own personal journey. I realized that I had to overcome what the world thought that I should do and do what was right for Katherine.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of how toxic that relationship was, and it lasted a couple of decades. And it got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I felt like I had to, for my own safety, get out of it. The whole marriage at the end, when I finally got the courage to ask for the divorce, ended in a gun incident. So I'm really, really fortunate to be here. Yeah. So that gives you some idea of how toxic it was.
Yeah. And your fear was well placed. Of course, you were fearing it because obviously it turned out in a way that was fearful, but you weren't wrong to be fearful of it. And probably that's what you were avoiding it. Like, okay, this is going to happen. But eventually, like you said, something has to happen. Something has to break because you can't stay where you are. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So fast forward, you're in HR. You are succeeding in getting promoted. You get out of this bad relationship. And how do you decide I'm going to be a coach? And
actually, I have to backtrack just a little bit. I had at the time what seemed to be an even larger challenge going on in my life. So when I was 26 years old, one day I was driving home from work and had this really bad headache. Didn't think much of it, took a couple aspirin because, I can push through anything. I'm very driven, right? So I'm like, I'll take a couple aspirin and go to bed and this will be gone. I would end up going blind in my left eye. Yes. Wow. Shocking at the age of 26. I happened to be living in Minnesota at the time, went to Mayo Clinic. They said, oh my God, they did all kinds of tests, said, oh my gosh, you know what? We hate to tell you this, but you have MS. I said, what? Multiple sclerosis at 26.
Were you in your relationship at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm connected. I hadn't connected the dots then, but I am a firm believer that what is happening in our life will, if it goes unaddressed or pushed down, ignored, it will show up in some form in our physical body.
Me too.
And so in the mid 90s, I ran across Dr. Bernie Siegel. And he is still one of the leading authorities on the mind-body connection in our world today. And he said, when you, in one of his books, I just devoured all his books. I knew I found gold. He said, when you have, when you receive a diagnosis, you need to look back a year or two to see what's been going on in your life. There are clues. Well, it was obvious to me what had been going on, right? So I, just like I said, devoured everything I could get my hands on, took his work and his mind-body connection work and took it even further and developed tools for myself. Still in this marriage, didn't have the courage yet to get out, still thinking I can fix things, right? And I was highly successful with my own health. Okay. Because I was seeing this mind-body connection piece. So it wasn't until 22 years later, though, I had another shocking experience where they said, oh, we're sorry to tell you this, but you don't have MS. You have something far worse. I'm like, who's going to pinch me to wake up from this nightmare?
Yes.
I mean, this is unbelievable. And so they said it's called neuromyelitis optica, or NMO. Huge mortality rate in the first 5 years. You shouldn't be here. I was like, but look at me.
Oh my gosh.
I was actually doing quite well. So I'm a researcher, got back on my computer, and I was still living in Minnesota. And then lo and behold, find out that there is an expert in the world on this really rare condition that I have been diagnosed with, neuromyelitis optica, who practices at Mayo. So I went
Which
down
is in
to
Minnesota, which is
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, you just can see all of the pieces and the synchronicity and everything
Right.
coming together so beautifully to get me to where I am today. This is all, I can connect the dots so beautifully. So I go down there and he walks into the exam room, the doctor, and he turned around and walked out. And I thought, what's going on? Okay. And he stood in the doorway and he looked back at me and he said, "Are you Kathryn Ford?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh my gosh, you don't even look like someone who's had MS for 22 years, let alone this worst condition. What are you doing? I really want to know, because obviously you're doing something more than just taking the medication that we've got you on." And I said, I'm going to take that as a compliment because I haven't been hearing very good news lately on many fronts. And he said, "Please do. And I want to know exactly what you're doing." So I unpacked it all for him. The mind-body connection.
When he saw you and he didn't know who you were, was he thinking he was going to see a sick person, or he actually knew you? Okay.
No.
He was like, "Do I have the right patient? Am I in the right room? Because you don't look sick." Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "This is amazing." And because this condition can lead to total blindness, all kinds of disability on every front, and it's very severe. So he was really amazed and wanted to know everything. I shared everything with him, and he was the one who looked at me and said, "You have got to get this out into the world. This is amazing," because we talked about this, everyone has some sort of dis-ease. Every single person on the planet. It may be with their health and well-being. Like, I had this diagnosis, and also my well-being was obviously connected to the diagnosis with my marriage. So it could be in that relationship category, which mine was too. And then oftentimes people, that time and money freedom category, they've got the financial flow to be able to enjoy life, but they don't have the time, or they have all the time, but no financial prosperity to enjoy that time, that to the level that they would love.
Right.
So we had that great discussion. He said, "Oh, you've got to get this out there." And I said, "Really? I said, "Honestly, I haven't thought about that. I've just been thinking about trying to save myself." And he said, "No, this is bigger than just you." So he was the first person who really planted that seed and gave me that information to go off in this other direction with who I was in my career and helping others in the world. And before I left, he said, "There's one more thing I have to tell you. I don't even know how to tell you this." He said, "But let me ask you this first. When's your next injection?" He said. And at that point, I was on an every other day injection for MS. It was a chemotherapy type drug.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I felt like for 16 and a half of those 22 years, I felt like I had the flu pretty much.
Oh my God.
I said it was that night. Every other night I would give myself an injection. I said it was that night. He said, "No, you need to stop those immediately. They're harmful to someone with your diagnosis." I felt like he punched me energetically in the stomach. I mean, I can't even, Julie, I was sick. I closed my eyes. I had so much emotion running through me. I mean, I was resentful, angry, all this, because I still have permanent damage from those injections. That was such a big drug. And then it hit me. I opened my eyes and I said, "You know what, doctor? I have a very powerful mind. I have been developing this power for the last 22 years. And I believed with every cell in my being that those injections were helping me, not hurting me. So I know they didn't hurt me."
Okay.
He had this huge sigh of relief, and I'll never forget, he pointed at me, he said, "We're sticking with that."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, we are, because if I hold on to what I was just feeling, I'll be back here tomorrow with
you'll be with another dis-ease.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And the fact that you, that he was saying, I was going to ask you if you felt relief when he said that, almost like it's almost like him saying, you don't have MS. Those things are hurting you. This is not, it was probably a combination, I'm sure, but this yes, you knew it wasn't all of what you were being told all along, and he was helping you with that. So I'm sure it was this resentment, but also this wait, maybe it isn't all true, what everyone's been telling me. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the power of our mind and who we are, the power of our being was really demonstrated there, because he's like, really literally, because you were on that for 16 and a half years, people not even on that don't even make it this long and have tremendous disability, and were taking a medication
my
working against you. Yeah, it was such a miracle. So then I thought about that, and I had a couple more doctors say the same thing, but I thought, I guess I can really connect the dots in my life. I thought I was on one journey, but really I was on a completely different journey to live and find my purpose in life, right? The reason why Kathryn Ford is on the planet,
Right.
because I'm in this highly successful HR career. Then I get this diagnosis, and I just put them together. And really, because in my HR career, I was doing coaching, high level coaching. I was in employee relations a lot of the time, and that was really high level coaching. And so I just merged the two, the coaching piece and this health journey, and tapping into our inner world.
And all the things you were teaching yourself that you didn't even realize you were knew you were doing that, but you didn't realize how beneficial they were to you while you were doing it.
Yes, exactly. So it's just really neat. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, we can all look back and connect the dots. And I certainly can. So I know that's why I'm still on the planet, having, come out of that terrible marriage, where I also shouldn't be here for that reason either any longer, because of what happened at the end. And so I know this is what I'm here to do, and I love it. I'm passionate about it. There's nothing, Julie, that lights me up more than when a woman's life takes off, no matter what she has been through, no matter what. There is a fabulous net. If you get the right support, that's what the one thing I want to tell people: find the right support for you, because if you find the right support and you have that support, absolutely, there is a next chapter waiting for you that will be so amazing. It will just blow you away. Really.
I love that you're saying that. I'm writing that down because it's so, it's integral when you're even, in high school and junior high, but not everyone has what they need when they're younger, which is one of the reasons I wrote my book.
Yes.
But people just think, I have to figure it on my own or do it on my own, or there aren't other people just struggling with what I'm struggling with. And like you said, you can find the right person or the program or whatever it is that's you need. If you don't, you try and you don't succeed, keep trying, because of course there's something out there. But what I love that's happening now, mostly in 2022 and over the last couple of years, is that there are so many people like you who are saying, women, I'm going to say women, because we're the ones that are always telling ourselves, questioning what we're doing and our worth and all of that. Mostly, I'm not saying it never happens with the men, but it's more of a dis-ease for us. Yeah, right. True. And I love that there's more and more women coming. And I see this on LinkedIn all the time. So I'm on LinkedIn every day, like people saying, I want to support you. Like, I'm a coach in this, whether it's financial, work, whatever you're trying to figure out, relationships, your life can be better. I'm proof of it. I'm here to help you do it. And we would all be so much more, we and our planet would just all be so much more, everyone would be thriving more if people would just pursue those things. And, especially to seeing women doing it, and then encouraging other women to do it is, I think, the key, most important part, because you can look at someone else and say, all right, well, you have that because of whatever, name 3 things, you didn't have to struggle when you were younger, you had money, whatever it is. But when you see other women doing it or saying, I've come up from this background and I didn't have everything easy for me and I still made it happen, having all that proof is like, okay, it's possible, and we need to support each other. And I don't think there's been, typically what I've seen anyways in the corporate world over the last 20, 25 years of my career, is that that support wasn't always there. I had some great mentors and lots of great women I worked for, but typically it wasn't the norm to have women just really cheering on other women.
Yes. And we absolutely thrive when we do. When we cheer each other on, when we support one another, we thrive.
I agree.
Really
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you're going along, you have these definitely some defining moments we just talked about in your life when you were being successful in an unhealthy relationship and thriving in that HR role, and then thriving later. How are you doing that? How are you remaining happy, peaceful, and content in that role and excelling really with everything going on? Like what were you either practicing or telling yourself, or what were you doing? What were some of the tools you used?
Well, gratitude has always been my go-to practice from, I think, really being a little girl on in childlike ways. I just found that I felt better with it. And then when I ran across Dr. Bernie Siegel and started developing some of my own tools to make life easier and happier and more joyful. And that's also one of the things I do working with women who are in business or who own business, is learning how to work smarter rather than harder.
Mm.
Right? It's huge. I did it for myself in my own life. And that's probably what sets me apart. I focus on the whole woman, her health and well-being, relationships, and her time and money freedom, what she's passionate about, her work in the world. But coming from that place of ease and gratitude changes everything, because it actually helps us. In our studies show too, for our brain, we have something called a reticular activating system. So that is what we end up scanning for, because we know science proves too, we get what we focus on.
Mhm.
So am I scanning for what's wrong in my life, what I need to fix, what the challenges are? And believe me, I did so much of that in my life.
Mhm.
And then when I began doing this research and everything, I realized, oh, I'm scanning for the wrong thing. And gratitude helps you scan for more of what's right. So then you start to receive more of what's right. And it's an easy practice. It feels great. There are a lot of deeper techniques you can go into, deeper gratitude practices that really help, make life easier,
Mhm.
make your work, have things come to you more easily, how to focus on that. But I wish that, I would have known that a little bit earlier in my life, because I was like most of us, and from well-meaning parents, I would get 95 out of 100 on a test, and let's go back and look at those 5 that we didn't get
Right.
right. It still was an A, but let's go
Yeah.
back, and because
Yeah.
next time we want 100%, right? Instead of celebrating the 95 that I got
Right.
right. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's so common. We have boys, and they're in college and out of college now, but I was always saying, we joke when they would do well. I'm like, like I got an A, or I got let's just say 99. I'm like, if that's the best you got, then I guess it's gonna have to be okay. It was a joke in our house because we knew, of course, or I got an A minus. Could have been an A or an A plus and stuff. I never did that. We just joked because they would get on themselves. We never even had to do it. They would just say, well, I really wish I would have had this. I'm like, you got this. Like, let's look at what you did and what worked well. And obviously you're doing something right if you continue, it's consistent for you. So in our house, it's the opposite, because I was kind of raised the same way, with like picking out the thing that didn't go well or whatever. And I think sometimes well-meaning parents just, okay, well, if you don't know something, it'd be better if you know it. So let's just focus on what you didn't know.
Exactly.
But we are taught to increase, strengthen our weaknesses instead of just keep doing what you're good at. And that will, like you said, focus on that, and that will thrive and get bigger. Yeah. I'm a big gratitude person. I have a chapter in my book about it because same reason. It's one of my, I've always been a grateful person, but I thought everyone else was. And then I'm usually told when I'm being grateful that that's a great trait, because not everyone is. I'm like, why wouldn't you be thankful? Because, it doesn't really take that much effort, but people think it does. And it's just not something they think if they concentrate on what's not going well, that they'll get those things. And like, actually, it's the opposite. Well,
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I wish I would have learned that a lot sooner too.
Yeah. And science is proving so many great things, like this reticular activating system. It's like if you're going to be going out to buy a red car, and all of a sudden what your thoughts are on this red car, right? All of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize all these people had the same car I'm getting ready to buy, right?
Yes.
Those cars were already out there. It's just your brain wasn't scanning for them.
I've never heard of that before. Reticular activating system. I just finished interviewing a couple weeks ago, Pam Grout. She's the author of E Squared. It's about energy and manifesting, but she has 8 or 9 experiments in her book saying the same thing, like, just go out and try this. And so I did, go out and look for green cars on your walk. I walk every day and see if you can find them, or pick a color that wouldn't necessarily be super obvious, like beige or black. Of course, you're going to see those. So she said, pick yellow. And I said, green would be harder, I think. So I'm going to go and do that. And like on my walk that day, I saw 3 cabs in Chicago, which they're very few cabs anymore. And if they are, they're yellow. So doing those experiments, but I didn't know that that's what it was called. I knew that the whole concept of what you focus on expands and all of that, but it is fascinating when you think about what our brains, how powerful they are, what they can do.
So fascinating. I mean, I have completely transformed my entire life from tragedy to triumph, just using my inner world. And that's what I help other women with. I mean, just up leveling every area of your life. It is so possible. And our health is really our most important wealth piece that we have, because if we don't feel good, it's almost impossible to be highly successful
Yes.
at anything you want to do. It does affect your relationships. It
For
affects
sure.
everything in your life.
Yeah.
And when we just going back to gratitude for a minute, or when we practice gratitude, we are actually activating something I call our inner pharmacy. So our thoughts generate feelings, and those feelings end up, connecting with this inner pharmacy.
Yeah.
And our bodies release chemicals based on our feelings, right?
Yep.
So if we are feeling grateful and wow, we're just like, I'm just so deeply and profoundly grateful for whatever it is, our body starts releasing great hormones, great chemicals. Our brain releases chemicals to make us feel better. And it's just like a cascade of amazing things that start to happen. And then we start focusing on what we love, and we start creating what we would love. And the evidence shows up in our life, right? Because thoughts generate feelings that lead to actions,
Yep.
and actions lead to results.
Yep.
So if I'm feeling fearful, or, all kinds of, maybe I'm just feeling so stressed out, which has been happening to a lot of people over the last couple of years. And if I stay in that state, my inner pharmacy is kicking out too much cortisol that's not meant to be in my body at that high level for so long. Then I start feeling down. I might get depressed, anxious. I'm going to make different decisions in every area of my life based on how I'm feeling. So this is really huge. And I think
it is huge. I'm so glad you talk about it with your clients, because it's so, it's just, I talked about it on a workshop I gave last month, actually. And my client was asking, like, well, if we talk about that, is it going to be this, like almost, too frou-frou, woo-woo, however you want to call it. And I'm like, yeah. I think once you see the research, like you said, the scientific evidence that what you're doing creates these other things personally and professionally, you're going to think about it differently. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is try it for 2 days, 5 days, 30 days. Your life's going to be different. But people are just like, oh, I can't concentrate on that. I need to concentrate on this instead. It's like, no, but if you concentrate on this, those other things kind of take care of themselves. Like, so it's, I'm glad it's more of a mainstream topic than it used to be, because it is, I mean, Oprah was talking about it, 20, 25 years ago with the gratitude journal, and it was like a new thing. And now it's like, it's a common language. I'm happy for that, because it is so important. Yeah. So let's talk about your advice you would give someone searching for a meaningful career, where they can use their strengths and they're not focusing on what they're not good at. They want to take what they do really well and have a meaningful career. What do you tell people, or the women you coach?
The biggest question I ask women in really every area of their life, and specifically for their career, is what would you love? What would you love? Drop into your heart space and really ask yourself, what do you love doing? What would you love? Not, gosh, what someone says I should do, or how I think, what the world is telling me I should do because it's a good career, a great career, or leads to success. I really want you to just drop into your heart and ask yourself what you would love. And when I work with clients, one of the first things we do is set up a personal passion prescription. And one of the areas we touch on, all three areas. What would you love? What would you love your relationships to look like? Because we're after rich relationships. What would you love your health and well-being to look like? We want that to be vibrant. And your career, what would you love that to look like? What would you love your days to look like while you're out there giving your gifts to the world? What kind of financial flow do you want to receive back? We absolutely have so much power to get what we would love.
That's a great question. And it's a common theme when I interview people and I ask them, like, go for the thing you love or you're passionate about. And some people will, again, just kind of write that off. Like, that's a little bit too, it's not that simple. Or it's not that easy. It's like, it actually is. If you get quiet and ask yourself the question, and then you start noticing with your gratitude practice, all the things that you are happy for and want in your life, and they start coming around, you're like, oh, this feels good. It feels good to feel good. Oh, and I can have more of that. And of course, you giving your gifts in that way would be better for whether it's your company, the company that you have, the company you work for, your relationships. Everyone around you ends up benefiting, but people just see it like, oh, I just got to put my head down and do the whole grind thing, and then eventually I'll get somewhere else. Like, with whose invitation? No one's standing over there saying, are you ready now? I'm ready to hand you the things you said you wanted. You have to make it happen. And you can't do that unless you ask yourself the question. Yeah, that's great. That's a great one. I love it. Okay, so I know we talked a little bit about wishing we had learned more about gratitude earlier in our life. Was there anything else that you wish you had learned a little bit earlier in your career or in your life?
I guess one of the things, just piggybacking on what we were just talking about, is one of the things I will have women do is go back to their childhood. And what did you love doing in your childhood? Really go back and look at what you loved. Now, for me, because that's a clue
Mm-hmm.
for your future career, what you would love to be doing now. And for me, when I would think about what did I love doing as a little girl, besides, I love to play with my dolls and whatever, but I love to be the teacher. Isn't that interesting? After I
Yeah.
really unpacked it, I'm like, what did I do a lot of? I love to be the teacher with my little neighborhood girlfriends. We would,
Mhm.
set up school and we put the dolls in the chairs and I was the teacher, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. You weren't the passive person listening. You were the teacher. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And what am
Yeah.
I doing today? I'm teaching.
Yeah.
I really am. And I'm right there supporting and helping women learn how to live their most amazing life beyond what they ever thought was possible for them.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's a great question. And I've read probably hundreds now of self-help books. And, one of the common themes is, what are you doing when the time just flies by and you can't believe it's been whatever. And that happens when I'm doing the podcast and writing usually too, or talking about any of these subjects we're talking about. And you get excited and you're like, I even had this, even after I was talking to a company yesterday, my husband's like, you are so ramped up. I'm like, yes, because I was just talking about, I went and worked out after when I was done, but I was so excited about what I was talking about and the possibility of working with them that I was just like, oh, I'm going to explode. But it was a fun conversation, but it's also like that's where you need to be. I mean, you can't be there every day, all day. Maybe you can, big part of it, but it was fun. And it made me feel like electric,
And yes, and think
Yeah.
about what that's doing for your inner world, your inner
Yeah.
pharmacy, everything. I mean, you could feel it, right?
Yeah.
You could feel those.
Yes.
That just felt so good. And
Yes.
then even take it one step further, you are literally sending energy out into the universe. You are sending that energy
Yes.
out into the universe, and what's happening? More good things are coming to you.
Yes.
I promise you.
Yes.
Promise you.
I believe
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I just think more people need to be talking about. I think more and more are, which is great. And this is why I do my podcast, because the more stories people can hear about real people that it's happening to and for, then it makes it seem more possible for them, which is why
Definitely.
Name of my podcast and my book, because it's like, it is possible. Here's proof of someone of any age. Usually, obviously, you get more wisdom as you get older. So it's a little bit clearer then, but still people had clarity when they were, like you were saying, little, 7, 15, whatever it was, 22, you probably knew in college when you were doing something you didn't want to do for 4 years and you finished doing it anyways, instead of stopping and saying, wait a second. Yeah. Happens all the time.
I did that.
For sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, final 2 questions for you. You can ask them in any order you'd like. What's the greatest gift that you offer the world every day? And what's one thing you're going to take away from our conversation that you discovered about yourself or during our conversation to me, or something that's going to stick with you?
Well, definitely, to answer the last question there, women supporting women. That I just love that when we were talking about that today.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, and it's what's needed instead of us all just trying to do it on our own. And that's why I love Excellence Institute, my company, so much, the membership there. And that'll answer your first question, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that when a woman gets the right support for her, anything is possible. I mean, and I'm a living, breathing example of that. I shouldn't be here for my health. I shouldn't be here because of the relationship. And the clients I work with too, they're like, oh my gosh, looking at where you literally tragedy, where you came from and the life that you're living today. Honestly, Julie, I feel like I'm living in a different life. I really do.
Yeah.
And it's possible. I just want to get the message out there to find someone that's right for you with your career, so that you can just shine so bright and get up in the morning and just be like, wow, I cannot wait to dive into today, because I have so many good things waiting for me.
Yeah.
That's really it. So it's really that women supporting women and finding the right person to help guide you, because it is possible. I know that we all can live a life of excellence, no matter what we have been through or are currently facing, no matter what. Absolutely. And so it's just stepping into the possibilities and not standing back, not holding back, feeling like, oh, I'm stuck. No, you can get unstuck very quickly.
Yes, agree. So what is it? So do you have a book? I can't remember.
I do.
Okay.
Yes, it's called Be Well, a 7-step system for radical healing. And again, it goes deeper than our health and well-being. It's that relationship piece and the career piece as well. But I have to say, what just delights me so much is, and this was a dream of mine, that I literally did all the practices, because I do everything every day. I live by what I teach. And it was my dream to have Dr. Bernie Siegel. Remember, I discovered him in the mid-90s, devoured his books, to write my foreword almost 20 years later. But I didn't even know if he was still on the planet. I didn't know him. I didn't know anybody who knew him. And I just did all my inner work. And lo and behold, he wrote the foreword to my book.
You asked him, and you asked for what you wanted, and you
I
thought it was
found
possible.
him through, it was a major connection, synchronicity. Yes. Yeah.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
And which is also more proof about everything you're talking about and what you teach your clients. It's like, yeah, that's the best. I love those stories. So you have a book, and then you have, so people want to work with you or get in touch with you or read your book, they can find everything on what's the website?
Yes, excellenceinstitute.com. And if they're interested in the possibilities of exploring to work with me, they just need to fill out an application. So excellenceinstitute.com/application. And that will start the process. I review all the applications. They'll have an opportunity to have a complimentary meeting with our concierge to find out if the community is right for them. But it's all women supporting women. In fact, yesterday on our one of our beautiful conference calls that we have, I do conference calls with the group and then individual as well. So everyone gets just me one-on-one, which also helps their lives take off quickly. Yes. But they were all supporting someone who had been going through something. And I'm telling you, the text messages and the beautiful support after, I had tears.
Oh, that's the best. I love that. Yeah, because you don't even think people that are listening in, you're like, okay, I'm just talking about this, but they're relating to you, or they're going through something similar, and just to hear all that support and not be trying to figure it out on your own is huge.
Yes, and the person who was having the challenge sent me a text after. She's like, I can't even believe all the support that I'm getting. So,
oh, that's the best. And then it makes it so worth everything you're doing. I mean, you love it anyways, but you probably would do it for free. But it makes it so worth everything you're doing to hear those words. And I'm sure when you say, I'm the same way when I get feedback from a workshop or someone, my book or podcast or something, and you hear that. That's why I always make an effort to tell people when I finish a book or heard something, I'll email anytime I can. I'm pretty good at figuring out how to get in touch with people, because I'm like, you know what, I would love to hear too. And I don't always, so I can give that gift and tell people how I'm grateful for what they wrote or shared or whatever. So the more we can do that, the better it is too. So well, I loved our conversations today. Thank you. I'm so glad we connected. Julie. And was it, who connected us, Nicole or Nina? Or
it was Nina.
Yeah. Yes. I'll have to shout out to Nina for connecting us.
I definitely will. She's one of our members, actually. She's one of our members of Excellence Institute.
Yeah, it was so great hearing from her, and that we should connect. So I'm really glad we did. And I wish you the best with everything you're doing. And I can't wait for people to hear this interview and work with you. Do you work with people from all different ages?
Yes.
Women? Okay. That was going to be my next question. Yes. All right. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. People, it would be great if we could get coaching like this in our 20s and 30s. I mean, I know that's still a lot of like introspection needed and stuff, because you don't have all the wisdom looking back, but it would be really cool to know what's possible then, so that you don't spend like us, you're looking back over your shoulder going, I could have had this 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. It would be really cool. That's probably what I would change. One thing, if I was going to change anything, that would be one of them for sure.
To know all this much sooner. Yeah.
Yes. So kudos to you for all the work you're doing, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
It was a pleasure. All right, everyone. So go check out her book, Katherine's book, Be Well, and we'll see you next time on our next episode. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. I hope you loved this episode. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, review, and share it. I hope you were truly inspired. And for a little more inspiration, don't forget to pick up my book, Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective: 8 Secrets to Serenity and Satisfaction in Your Life and Career. I can't wait to get you love in your life.